Okay, so what's up, you guys? I'm Brianna, and this is my first YouTube video, and it's a true crime video because I love true crime. Who doesn't love knowing about fascinating cases? So, my first case is going to be a John Doe case. A John Doe case is basically when the victim is unidentified. The case I'm going to be covering is The Boy in the Box, and I'm going to be looking down a lot because, as you can see, this is a lot to cover in one video, and who is about to remember all of this? Not me. So instead of messing up in my video, I'm just going to be reading off of this. So to start off, the boy in the box was an unidentified murder victim between the ages 3 and 7 years old. He was found in Philadelphia on February 25th, 1957 in the woods off of the road. I don't know how to pronounce the road, so it's going to be right here. And he was found in a cardboard box for a bassinet, and he was wrapped inside of a plaid blanket. The first person to discover his body was a young man checking his muskrat traps. The young man did not want to get his traps confiscated by the police, so he did not contact them. The second young man to discover his body was a college student who said he had seen a bunny go off into the bushes, so he stopped his car, got out, and walked into the woods and discovered the body. But after digging further into the case, it's reported that he didn't contact the police at first until 24 hours later because he was actually stalking another student from his school. So he waited those 24 hours to report it. When the boy was found by the police, when the investigation started on February 26th, the boy's hair had been cut off, and it was half-assed. You could tell it was just choppy, and his hair was all over his body. That's how you could tell that it had just been cut. When the boy was found, he was naked and his body was battered, and he was really malnourished. He was emaciated, so that could tell you how malnourished he was. He only weighed about 30 pounds, and he was roughly 40 inches, I believe. He had surgical scars on his ankles and his groins, as well as he had an odd L-shaped scar underneath his chin. And the death was ruled a homicide, of course, and he died from blunt force trauma to the head. While the investigation was going, the cops could not determine his time of death because that time that he was found in Philadelphia, it was really, really cold out there, so they couldn't determine his time of death. He could have been there for weeks, he could have been there for days, months, nobody knows. About 400,000 flyers were printed out in Philly, and they were sent to thousands of police departments around the world. I mean, not around the world, around the country, in hopes to identify the boy, but no one ended up coming forward. The crime scene was combed over and over and over again. The police discovered a blue cap, a man's blue cap, a child's scarf, and a white handkerchief with a G in the corner. But the clues led nowhere, which often happens in a John Doe case. But that also goes to say everything you find is important in these cases as well, to try and help identify a person. Okay, so to continue, the police went as far as releasing post-mortem pictures, which of course is a dead body, of the boy. He was fully dressed and he was seated up to make it seem like he was alive, so you could see what he looked like if he were alive, but it was still a dead end and no one came forward to find the boy. So to get into the theories over what happened to the boy, I have 2 or 3 theories, and these theories are long, so bear with me. So the first theory, it has to do with a foster home that the boy was thought to be in. The boy's body was found 1.5 miles from where the foster home was. A man named Remington Bistro, he was a medical examiner. He had got in contact with a psychic who told him to find a foster home that looked like he explained to the medical examiner. Bistro went everywhere to try to find this foster home until he finally found it. He interviewed the family, and right after he interviewed the family or so, the family upped and moved away, and they had a estate sale. So Bistro attended the sale, and some of the things that he found or that he saw at the sale were kind of chilling. He found like the ones that come in the box that the boy was in, and he also found a blanket similar to the one that the boy was wrapped up in. Bistro theorized and believed that he belonged to the stepdaughter of the man who owned the foster home, and they wanted to dispose of the boy because back then it was frowned upon, sinful basically, to be an unwed mother. So they wanted to get rid of the boy. But despite all of that evidence, it wasn't even a lot of evidence, but despite that evidence, there was no link between the boy and the foster home. But the family was interviewed once again, and it was confirmed that they were not a part of the murder, and the stepdaughter even had a DNA test, and it was confirmed that she was not the mother of the boy in the box. The second theory is a theory that I somewhat believe, and it's about a woman named... Sorry you guys, my camera cut off. But anyways, to get back to what I was talking about, it has to do with a woman named M, and this theory was brought forward in February of 2002. The police actually considered her story plausible, but were troubled by her testimony because of her past of mental illness. M claimed that her mom actually bought the boy as a baby from his biological parents in 1954, but the boy and M as well were subjected to extreme physical and sexual abuse for about 2.5 years. The boy was even forced to live in the basement, which would explain why he had eye infections and would explain why he was malnourished, because he probably wasn't being fed if he was living in the basement. One evening, the evening of his death, they were eating baked beans for dinner, and the boy got sick and he vomited, and M's mother got really mad, so she beat him by slamming him against the floor multiple times, which would explain blunt force trauma to the head. She banged him until he was semi-conscious. I mean, that still explains the blunt force trauma. After that, the boy was given a bath, and that would explain why when they found the boy also, his fingers were water wrinkled. But during his bath, the boy passed away. All details matched, which shocked the police, because details that the police didn't even release to the public, M knew about. That's what makes her story seem so true, because no one else knew this except the police and the coroner. All of the details matched what the coroner had said when they found bits of baked beans in his stomach and that his fingers were water wrinkled. M claimed that the boy, not the boy, that her mother cut the boy's hair because it was a distinct thing on him. Everyone knew the boy because he had beautiful long hair, so she cut that to conceal his identity. M states that her mother forced her to help dispose of the body, so in doing so they drove off to the wooded area, and as they were disposing the body, a male motorist had stopped and asked if they needed help. So M's mother told her to stand in front of the license plate so nobody could get their number and try to pin the crime on them or get any traces back towards them. But the man eventually drove off, but the story corroborated a confidential testimony that was given by a man also. But the police were unable to verify M's story, so they went to M's neighbors, and M's neighbors all basically said that they often went to the house and there was no boy around, and that all of everything M was saying was basically like ridiculous, like it couldn't be true. So the last theory was that the boy was forced to grow up as a girl, which would explain a lot as well, because the police so he had long hair. The police made a sketch out of how his hair would have been before it got cut, so before he died, basically. His eyebrows were also tweezed and shaped to be more feminine, and he had a surgery in the groin region, which maybe it could have been a surgery like that, maybe it couldn't have, maybe it could have been professional, maybe it couldn't have. But I personally believe M's story. The cops aren't using it because of her mental illness. That's what I believe, and I don't think they should single out her mental illness. I mean, it's obvious why she has a mental illness, because of what her mother did. Okay, I'm sorry guys. Once again, my camera did not cut off this time. I had to answer a call, and it would have been rude. So, anyways, I believe M's story is true. They shouldn't not take her testimony or anything just because of her mental illness. It's obvious she has it because of what her mother did to her. But he was buried in Potter's Field in 1988, but his body was exhumed to put his DNA on file for if they found any evidence in the future. But he was reburied in Ivy Hill Cemetery in Cedar Brook, Philadelphia, and the son of the man who buried the boy, he donated a large plot, a coffin, a headstone, and a service. The headstone, it was a large headstone, and the words on the headstone say America's Unknown Child, and it's decorated with flowers and stuffed animals. Well, I hope you guys liked the story. Well, not the story, the case, and let me know your theories or anything on it. But that's the end of this video.